Here's to making your morning routine a little better with a delicious breakfast from McDonald's.
1580 103.3 WPKY. Good morning. Time is 8:17. It is 31 right now. Hey, we are joined this morning with Michael Lasser, is it? Lasser. Michael Lasser from Princeton Counseling. We want to talk this morning a little bit about an event, I suppose, you have coming up, for low-fee counseling. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. It's
by the way, welcome in. Thank you very much for coming this morning.
Absolutely. I designed an event that can be bi-weekly, depending on the community needs, but it's low-fee therapy group. And basically, you're getting 50 minutes to an hour session, but you're doing it within a group. The only thing that we would need is at least 6 people to sign up for the group, no more than 10, and this group would be appropriate for any adult who has struggles with depression, indoor anxiety. The cost of the group is only $10 per person, and I think that one of the reasons that I set this up is that I've seen a great need in this community within Caldwell and Lyon County, that there's a lot of people who are either uninsured or underinsured. And unfortunately, the way that the mental health systems are working around here, some people who need help are having to wait 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks before they get in to see a provider. And that's just not okay with me.
Okay, so you said the cost of this is
$10 per person.
And normally, what would this type of therapy cost?
Well, I do accept insurance, and so that's really dependent on insurance reimbursements and things like that. I really don't have an answer for you there because this is a new event that we're doing. So I know that what I charge for private pay clients or for insured clients, so this is a reduction of cost for the consumer, for the participant, for the client, whatever.
Okay, and explain to me or to everyone, what does group therapy entail?
Absolutely. Group therapy entails the difference between group and individual therapy, obviously, is that there's more people than just you and the therapist in the group. Group therapy benefits could include, a cohesion of the group where you're able to share understanding, share stories, coping skills, things like that. Also, successful groups really are good at holding each other accountable, which is a big thing as well when we're struggling with a mental health issue like anxiety or depression. And lastly, I think the third benefit I could really think of is cost. It's cost effective. You're not paying as much for therapy when you're in a group versus when it's a one-on-one session. And, I think that depending on the therapist, I don't necessarily think that you're going to lose any of the relationship building with the therapist because I think an effective therapist can do both well, group and individual therapy.
Do you find that people still in a group setting are able to open up?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that what I do when I do groups, and I've been leading groups now for about 7 years, one thing that I do is I always set up ground rules. Rules is a harsh word. We set up, we'll call it rules, group rules, but everyone's involved in that. And so a typical thing would be when we set up the group, I ask the clients, what is it that you need in this group so that you're able to feel safe? Because that's the number one need with any type of counseling, is the client needs to feel safe. So that could look like, one person talking at a time. No one hijacking the group, and what I mean by hijacking in this sense is somebody talking for the full 50 minutes. And, holding everyone accountable to those rules and then moving forward with the group.
When is the first one?
This Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. is when it's scheduled.
Wednesday at 6:30, and that is, I don't have a calendar.
Wednesday the 12th.
The 12th. Wednesday the 12th at 6:30. Do they have to call you ahead of time?
They do, yes.
Okay. What's the number?
Area code 270-874 7033.
7033. So if they want to get a spot in this group therapy coming up Wednesday night at 6:30,
6:30.
they need to call that number. And do they pay in advance? Do they pay when they get there? How does that work?
There's options available.
Okay.
They can pay in advance. They can come by my office, or they could, just pay when they get there.
And you said this is a new thing. So tell me how you came to decide that this was a need that you wanted to provide.
Okay, it's a great question. So, again, it goes back to the calls that I was getting for clients who was wanting to schedule appointments. There are a lot of people within the Commonwealth, but specifically here in our area that I've noticed, there's a lot of clients, again, that are uninsured or that are underinsured. There are a lot of clients whose insurances perhaps I don't currently take, but they need services. And so, I don't think it would be appropriate for me as a licensed professional clinical counselor to turn anyone away who is wanting mental health services, because there's so much stigma now when it comes to mental health that, being a mental health advocate, I'm going to do what I can for the community.
And you're right, because it is hard to admit that we need to talk to somebody, that we can't just handle our problems ourselves.
Right, absolutely. And I think that goes back to the stigma. I think back in the day, this is true with substance abuse issues as well. There is a large population of people out there that think that mental health or substance abuse issues are a behavioral character defect. Well, I come from the team of science and research, and science and research is showing no, it's in fact actually a disease. And so one thing as an advocate for mental health that I'm a big proponent of supporting and talking about is that someone with anxiety, someone with depression, someone with trauma, it's not about behaviors. It's about what's going on in the brain for them, what imbalances are going on in the brain for them, and how to make them well, And that's the thing, whether it's mental health or substance use, I tend to look at it all the same. These are things that you can manage. These are things that you can really be accountable for getting well with. But again, I think it's a matter of having those services available and affordable, where people are able to reach out.
And I think affordable is a big hindrance for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
I think you've really touched on something with that for sure. So how long have you been a therapist?
Sure. I received my first license in 2013. I'm currently licensed in 3 states, Louisiana, Tennessee, my home state, and here in Kentucky. I received my license here in Kentucky back in April. I had to go through a process. I began Princeton counseling shortly thereafter. And from there, I've been moving on trying to create and design services and things like that I'm finding the need for in the community.
What brought you to the Princeton community specifically? What made you decide, hey, they need a counselor, I'm going to set up Princeton Counseling and go to Princeton, Kentucky?
Sure. Well, I was living in Clarksville, Tennessee, working at Fort Campbell as a counselor, which I currently still do. What struck me as odd, I've always been a wanderer and an explorer at heart and things like that, and I love the lake regions. I love the lake area. I met a really good friend up here. We went, who introduced me to horses. We were doing a lot of trail riding, things like that, and I just really fell in love with the area. But one thing that I really noticed, and I had a lot of discussions with my friend, and that was, there's no mental health services here. Where are the therapists? Where are the counselors? And I get it. This is a rural area. But one thing that may be a surprise to a lot of your listeners is that rural communities who lack the representation of mental health counselors or therapists, one of the highest suicide rates as far as occupations go, is farmers. Who would have thought that, you know? But that's right up there with the other like most stressful jobs that you would think of people. And so, so I thought it was very interesting that there were no services here. I began to educate myself, and I noticed that, you know, there are a couple community health centers here. I believe that there are a couple solo practitioners within, like, let's say a 35 mile radius of here, but there was no one here in Princeton. And so it was a no-brainer for me. Nashville, Clarksville, larger areas are congested with a lot of people like me with the same credentials, and I thought, you know what, let me come up here. I grew up in a rural area in Tennessee. Small towns are kind of like my thing, and I made the push to really kind of get something started. Lastly on that, I read a report from the local hospital here about mental health services, and don't judge me on the numbers, but I believe it was something like to the effect of, for every 848 Caldwell County residents, there was one mental health provider for, and so I wanted to do something about that as well. So I hope I'm meeting a need.
Absolutely. Have you found the community has been responsive?
Absolutely, yes.
Great.
Absolutely.
Great. And that was a yes or no question, so I usually don't ask, but I wanted to know that one. So, and I'll let you go here in just a minute, but tell me what got you started in therapy in the first place?
Sure. I'll tell you, it was a long time ago. I guess it was the journey, and we just have to kind of believe where the journey is taking us. I was in college. I was a pre-law student. I was a non-traditional student. I did not go back to college until I was in my 30s. I left New Orleans, moved back to Tennessee, started school, and there was a psychology course that I took, and I found it very fascinating. Prior to that, earlier in my life, I had to see a counselor myself, and it was one of those experiences that I didn't forget, because that lady helped me out a lot. And so taking that psychology course and kind of having one of those aha moments, I definitely think it was my higher power speaking to me at that time. And immediately I changed my major. I jumped into psychology. I got my master's in counseling psychology. And I went to work on getting licensed. So I think a little bit of personal experience with a therapist, as well as just really just an interest. A profound interest in just wanting to, wanting to provide hope, wanting to give back. So.
See, and I love that because we kind of pressure our kids when they go to school to know what you're going for. You know, you need to pick your major, you need to know what you're doing, and you were in your 30s before you figured it out. And, you know, some of us figure out a little bit later in life what kind of career path we want, and that's okay, and that's great, and it sounds like it's working wonderfully for you.
Absolutely.
You seem like you're very happy with where you are and what you're doing. And
Sure. I don't look at what I do as work. Again, it's my passion. It's my calling, and I'm just thankful that I took the time to not rush in, not to buy into society demands of you've got to have everything figured out by the time that you're 18. No. Who knows who we are at the age of 18? I'm now 45 and I'm still learning about myself daily. So, you know, can I get an amen?
Yes, hallelujah.
So I don't look at it as work.
That's great. So how often do you recommend equine therapy?
I recommend it all the time. I'm a big animal lover. You know, not only do I utilize horses, also pet therapy as far as like petting the dogs or things like that is a big part of the work that I do. Equine therapy, you know, usually what I like to do is I like to get someone started on coming out to the farm, meeting the horses, just kind of petting with them, kind of getting their feel on comfortableness with it, and then working on a treatment plan with that client as far as what are their goals and how can I best utilize the horses for that. So people who engage in equine therapy with me, I want them to know that it's going to be a combination of traditional office visits and then going to the farm with the horses as well, because there needs to be a really good combination. you're doing the application, you're doing the work with the horses, but then I want us to process afterwards. And how did that help you to meet that goal of, let's say, low self-esteem or low self-worth, or, how did it feel to help someone else,
And see, I was kidding because I trail ride, so I was, I call that my equine therapy. But I did not realize. So you actually have equine therapy. I did not realize that. All right. Yeah. So tell me. Let's back up a minute and tell me what's that about? Where's the farm? What is that? Your horses? Or are they somebody? Tell me about that.
Yeah, sure. Well, David Rogers, who owns David Rogers Pet Grooming and Boarding. I'm giving him a plug as well. Hello, David, if you're listening. David has a farm here in Princeton, in Caldwell County, and he has currently I think he has a stock of about 8 horses right now. I utilize 2 of them, Squirrel and Idol, in our therapeutics, equine therapeutic sessions that I hold with clients.
And what do they ride the horses? Do they just groom and tack and kind of thing, or what do they do with them?
It just varies depending on the individual treatment plan. I don't want to say that everyone who comes out to the farm rides the horses because it may not be appropriate. There may be some mobility issues and things like that. So no, if we get to that point of where people are riding the horses, they've been working with the horses for a while. Again, it's about helping a lot of people to help themselves. And sometimes, and that's the thing I really want to say here, a lot of people expect therapy to fix their problems like that so quickly. We live in a society that's all about instant gratification. Therapy takes time, but the results are real. You can really get real healing out of therapy if you open up yourself to that healing. So going back to the equine therapy, it takes time before somebody's jumping on a horse. They do a lot of grooming work and things like that to prepare themselves. But again, most people here that I've met have an experience or a history with horses, so
they already know what they're doing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, Michael, gosh, we could get so deep here, but unfortunately, I've got other guests. And
sure.
No, not unfortunately. It's great that we have other guests. I'm glad to have other guests. Unfortunately, we have to wrap our session up for now. We will have to have you back, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of this stuff. Thank you so much for joining, and wrap up again one more time about this clinic coming up.
Sure. Low-Fee Therapy Group, Wednesday, December 12th, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. Call me in advance, 270-874-7033, and I look forward to hearing from you.
The IRS finally caught up with Louie.
I hadn't paid my taxes in 8 years. I owed the IRS a lot of money.
Louie was in deep trouble.
We're going to take your house, put a lien on your bank account, garnish your pay. They don't care. They're going to take your paycheck.
Louie found out about Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $500 million for their clients.
Optima Tax, they help me. They calm me down. They make me feel comfortable, and I trust them.
Louie has a lot to be thankful for.
I don't owe the IRS anymore, and I'm able to live a comfortable life, a lot better life. It was because of Optima Tax.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation. Take it from Louie.
If you owe the IRS, don't go it alone. Give Optima Tax a call. They can help you.
Call 800-359-6844. 800-359-6844. 800-359-6844.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Introducing the all-new 1500 Ram Crew Cab with groundbreaking exterior styling, uncompromising luxury, and safety in numbers. The new Ram has available active-level 4-corner air suspension for the best ride in the truck market. Best-in-class rear legroom, in-floor storage, and the industry-exclusive Ram Box, the pickup bed with built-in toolboxes. When you push the start button and you hear that 5.7 Hemi come to life, you'll know then which truck you'll buy. The all-new Ram. See it now at Tri-Hughes in Princeton, your Chrysler Dodge Ram dealer.
Join WPKY for the 2018 Princeton Christmas Parade this Saturday at 5 p.m. Come hear the band, see the lighted floats, and see the big guy himself. It all happens this weekend in downtown Princeton for the 2018 Christmas Parade. Tune in to WPKY 103.3 for full parade coverage starting at 5 p.m. Parade coverage is brought to you by Planters Bank, Pennyroyal Hospice, Farmers Bank, Tri-Hughes, Pennyroyal Electric, Audubell, and Fredonia Valley Bank.
At
Christmas time, we gather around the dinner table with family and friends. There's nothing better than knowing your meal is mouthwatering to you and your guests. Nolt's Barbecue will smoke a pork shoulder or ham over hickory coals, low and slow, the old-time traditional way. Call to order Nolt's